hit it, get it. That's a song, right?
Did you say that's a song?
Yeah. I mean, it is now.
Yeah.
That's a bop.
We're making it a song.
I like it. Welcome back to the Ghosty Girls.
It sounds like a 90s sitcom intro. With a live audience. Woo!
Thank you. We're back. So happy to be here.
Yeah.
Also, 2 peanuts were walking down the street. One was assaulted.
Oh my God.
That was only one person laughing. Sorry. I thought it was like a whole... Wait. Ew.
I don't like it. That was creepy.
Seriously, welcome back. We missed you so much. Wow, the kisses.
Yeah. The kisses, yeah.
I'm Alicia.
I'm Christina.
All right. I got one for you today.
Oh boy.
You're going to be shooketh. You know why?
Why?
It's a recent one.
Oh, that's so weird. You never do recent ones.
Never. All right. So I'm just going to dive right on in.
Let's do it.
Okay. On January 29th, 2022.
Oh, that is recent.
A snowy night in Canton, Massachusetts. I think that's how you say it. Karen Reed dropped off her boyfriend, who was a police officer in Boston named John O'Keefe, at a house party hosted by a fellow police officer, Brian Albert. Hours later, Karen's boyfriend, John, was found unresponsive in a snowbank outside of Brian's home. How did he get there? There is a whole lot of shit to dig through, and I'm curious to see what you think at the end of this.
I will definitely tell you what I think.
Okay. You've heard of this, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, who hasn't?
Who hasn't?
I mean, unless you're living under a rock.
I mean, yeah, I just...
This one's real crazy. Yeah.
It's been fun. It's been fun following it. Not as fun as Diddy, but pretty fun.
Did Diddy do it?
Yes. Diddy did the
What
Diddies.
didn't Diddy do?
Nothing. He did it all. And covered it with baby oil. The end.
No.
Gross. Anywho, Karen Reed was subsequently charged with second-degree murder, accused of striking John with her SUV and leaving the scene. So the initial trial was in 2024, and it was riddled with controversy. The prosecution presented evidence suggesting Reed's vehicle was involved, including a broken taillight and John's DNA on her SUV. However, the defense argued that John was assaulted inside of the house, even possibly attacked by a dog, and that the scene was staged to implicate Reed. After weeks of testimony, the jury was unable to reach a verdict. So it was a mistrial, but I also want to mention the lead investigator for the prosecution by the name of Michael Proctor. So Michael was caught sending personal text messages calling Karen a cunt, making fun of her supporters.
Damn.
And he was also just saying some really vulgar things.
Not a good start.
No. It's also suspected that the taillight evidence was planted by Michael or by someone working closely with him. So there were initially no pieces of broken taillight found at the scene of the crime.
Okay.
And there was a lot of time spent on this in court. There was even a reconstruction showing the taillight essentially wouldn't have even hit John or broken on him. Does that make sense?
Like hitting him at the same angle?
Yeah, it wouldn't have...
Like if she hit him with the car, it wouldn't have hit him in a way that it would have broken the taillight.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
That's what I'm trying to say in, just too many words. So basically, there were too many inconsistencies with this freaking taillight. That's all I'm going to say. To continue with this shady-ass butt plug, Michael freaking Proctor.
Proctor reminds you of proctologist.
I know, yep. It is suspected that because Brian, whose home this happened at, was a police officer, as were many people present in his home the night of John's death, Proctor did not consider any of them potential suspects. He never got a warrant for the home. He never asked for the partygoers' cell phones or even input.
That's odd.
Yeah, and he didn't ask the Alberts, again, that's the home that it happened at, or their neighbors for any security camera footage.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Which is like the first thing you should do.
Yeah, duh.
Because I would have been caught.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. One other thing, he also threatened witnesses to lie or to be charged. So he basically said, like, if you don't say this on the stand, you'll be charged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welp.
Luckily, the state found out about the text messages and he was placed on leave in March of 2025. So not that long ago.
Damn.
And then soon after, he was fired.
Good. Fuck that guy.
I agree. So this case has garnered national attention after all of that came out, with debates absolutely raging over the integrity of the investigation and the possibility of a miscarriage of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Documentaries and podcasts have explored the case, reflecting the public's fascination and concern over the intertwining of personal relationships and professional responsibilities within law enforcement. After following the trial closely, I personally believe that Reed was being framed and the actual story of what happened to John is being held back or being buried somewhere. So first, just out of quick memory, I'm going to do a rundown of what happened from my research.
Okay, and how we got to this point.
How we got to even the first trial.
Yep.
So John and Karen were at a bar with the Alberts. Mm-hmm. Jen McCabe was there. There were a bunch of off-duty police officers.
Okay.
And, people
they were all
that
just
were
hanging out drinking.
They were hanging out drinking, and the bar closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Jen, maybe, that said, hey, we're all going over to the Alberts home for like an after party.
Mm-hmm.
Come on over. So at this point, it's, 12 something, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And they had all been drinking.
They had all been
drinking. And then
they
all drove. Okay.
Yeah. As cops should.
Right.
So they all drove. Karen and John didn't go right away. I don't know where they went.
Okay.
But from my understanding, they were fighting. Like from the morning through that evening, they were bickering.
Okay.
And Karen dropped John off at the party.
Okay.
And then left.
Gotcha.
And went home. So she just said, okay, here, bye. Good luck. Get an Uber home.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if she actually said that, but that's
probably
in my mind what she did. Went home.
Mm-hmm.
So Karen went home and John didn't respond to any of her messages, any of her texts, anything. And the next morning, she was frantic because she couldn't find John. She didn't hear from him. She was worried something had happened. She's still mad at him too at the same time.
Right.
We've all been there. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And her niece, John's niece who lived with them, woke up and said Karen was frantic. She had me call John. He didn't answer. She had me call Jen McCabe, however you say it, who is a key witness in here. She's a piece of shit, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there. Jen then came over and got Karen and said, okay, let's go try to find him. So they drove in the car. And as they got closer to the Alberts home, there was a lump kind of in a snowbank on the side of the road. And Karen said, oh my God, that's John.
Oh shit.
And pointed at him. And Jen was like, wait, what? Pulled over. And Karen said, oh my God, could I have hit him? Oh my God, could I have done something? Because
they had all been drinking.
Fuck. So she's like, oh my God, did I hit him? Did I do this? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But mind you, she had called him a bunch of times after she got home, yelling at him that he wasn't home yet. And you know what I mean? Like just trying to get a hold of him. Yeah. So it's the whole thing's very intriguing. Like, did John go into the house? Don't know. And that's, I think, what this trial is about. Like, did John ever make it into the house? Or
did they find damage that would have been consistent with being hit by a car on his body?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
There's so many different reports.
Just because there are cases of drunk people dying of hypothermia outside. I mean, that has happened before. But what I'm curious about is if you're hit by a car to the point where it's going to kill you, you're going to know. You're going to be able to tell from the body.
Correct. So The wounds he had were on one of his arms.
Okay.
And then there was I want to say he's a brain surgeon or some kind of a physician who said that his death injuries were or coincided with someone who had fallen backwards and hit their head. And then maybe passed out and then had died from hypothermia.
Oh.
But and then they're saying that the cuts on his arm are from the taillight. However,
there would be taillight pieces.
Correct.
And there were not at the scene.
Correct. There was a broken glass that was sitting, like, it was both on the car and, I guess, close to John. I'm not sure if it was just on the car. I don't know. But there was another specialist. This is my ADD. I'm sorry. I'm like going all over the place. But there was another specialist who said the wounds on his arm are more consistent with an animal.
An animal?
And they had a dog named Chloe.
Oh.
Who had injured people before.
Okay.
And actually was rehomed within the next like couple of days because she, quote, attacked another dog and their owner.
Oh.
Also, the Alberts replaced their freshly redone flooring in their basement.
They did.
They had just had it redone to the point where they took out concrete and everything. Like there are so many pieces to this story. Like it's fucking nuts.
Oh boy, I better buckle my seatbelt.
Girl, no, just unbuckle it and enjoy the ride. See where it goes. See where you end up.
I'll end up dead on the ground in the snow.
Never mind, buckle it up too soon.
Never too soon.
Lord forgive her.
I'm sorry. I'm just sorry.
She makes jokes because she's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
All right. So now I'm just going to go through like day by day on the trial just to kind of give you, you're going to hear a bunch of stuff that I already said, but it'll be a little bit more detail. I'm going to focus on just what kind of was the biggest moment of each day so it doesn't turn into like a 700-parter.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like just doing the highlights because, I mean, as a paralegal, I know that trials are mainly pretty boring. They are. We just want to highlight real. Okay?
Yes. I mean, I wanted this done a while ago, but it took me a while just to kind of go through it.
The second verdict just came out not too long ago, so, you know.
So April 1st through the 15th, almost 600 potential jurors crowded the courtroom before 18 were selected, 12 main jurors and 6 alternates. April 22nd was the opening statements. Both sides had their thoughts and were setting up the scene for the jury. Prosecution, attorney Hank Brennan, he painted a vivid scene. EMTs encountered Reed screaming, "I hit him." Did she say that? I don't know. While John lay unresponsive in the snow. It was stated that when Karen was in the car, she knew exactly where he was located.
But in her defense, I mean, if, let's say I'm in a car and I have someone driving me, the driver isn't going to be looking out the window to the side. Obviously, they're going to be looking forward as you do when you drive. And as a passenger, you're looking out the window and stuff. So, I mean, I feel like if you're driving through a neighborhood and you see a body, you're going to be like, holy shit, there's a body.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not to say that she knew exactly where he was. She just looked over and was like, fuck, is that him?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And honestly, as we get into this, Jen maybe already knew right where he was and purposely drove her right to him.
That's very true. That's very true.
That's where all of this shit goes like crazy. Like this is a banger of a case.
Yeah.
So the defense attorney, Alan Jackson, countered, saying the taillight and the glacier of evidence will prove this was a tragic loss, not a murder. Blaming a flawed and disgraced investigation led by Michael Proctor. Michael had a real-life hatred for John. And you can tell that just by his text that he was caught sending, about Karen.
Yeah.
He even used solo cups instead of typically provided baggies for evidence collection. So we're going to get into that.
That's a choice. That was a choice. Not a good one, but it was one. Fuck.
Well, those solo cups were delivered in a Stop and Shop baggie. So,
are you serious? You made that up?
No,
Nuh-uh.
No, I'll get into it. You'll hear the whole thing.
Oh my god!
So, day 2, John's mother, Peggy, was called to the stand. She recalled talking to Karen on the phone on the way to the hospital, and Karen told Peggy that she had left John at the party, following with, "I just left him there."
Okay.
After arriving at the hospital, Peggy saw Karen in the hall and recalls her yelling, by her I mean Karen yelling, "Peg, is he dead?"
Okay.
Peg actually asked someone there, "Why is she here?" In response to Karen, she said, "Oh, she's here for a mental evaluation."
Oh.
So there's that portion too. I'm trying to give you both sides.
Okay.
Right? Because she had, at this point, had been drinking all night, just found her, boyfriend they had been, I don't know.
Laying on the side of the road.
Yes. The whole thing.
In all fairness, and I always like to play devil's advocate, but just because you're fighting with someone doesn't mean that you kill them.
Correct.
It could have just been a very, very misfortunate coincidence that he died the day that they were arguing. I mean, arguing doesn't make you a murderer.
No.
It just doesn't.
And they had been arguing prior to that day too.
Yeah.
It sounds like things hadn't been good for a while.
Right.
So Peggy also said that Karen's father, and Karen's brother showed up at Peggy's home hours after John was pronounced dead. Here's a quote that Peggy said to the court. "There was a knock at the door, and it was Karen, her father, and her brother. They asked if they could come in, and I was just trying to calm the kids because Patrick was out of control yelling. And then they came in and they said, 'Do you mind if we go upstairs and get some of her things?' Which I never should have let them go up there, but at the time, I couldn't think straight. And I didn't have anybody else to help me keep them down there in the kitchen. So I don't know what they got up there or even what they did up there."
Okay.
So there's that. Day 3. One of John's friends, Mike Camerano, testified first. Mike was with John and Karen at the bar that fateful evening. He said that Karen was a very jealous person and did not want any other women around John. Later, the jury was read back and forth texting that revealed a lot of tension between John and Karen. The message thread referenced a fight that they had in the morning of the incident, of which Karen called a, quote, rager, end quote. Karen sent John a message that read, "Tell me if you're interested in someone else. I can't think of any other reason you've been like this." To which John simply replied, "Nope. Things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that?" Prosecutors also played a documentary clip featuring Karen, despite the defense objections. I don't know what clip it was, nor do I care, but just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah.
Day 4, the jury went on a field trip.
Yay.
Jurors piled into a bus to go on a, again, field trip to the Canton property, aka the Alberts' home. During the trip, the defense and prosecution representatives pointed out and made points about different areas to the jury, especially where Karen's SUV was parked and where John was found.
Okay.
Day 5. Half of the day went to cell phone forensics expert Ian Whiffen, mapping John's last known cell phone pings. Ian's analysis showed that John's phone arrived at the Canton property on January 29th at around 12:24 a.m.
Okay.
He also claims the phone remained in the yard throughout the evening. He claims.
I feel like that wouldn't that be hard to prove though?
I have no idea. He is a cell phone forensic expert. But listen, there's like 2 or 3 of them in here, and they're all a mess.
I'm just wondering how specific pings are, because if you're just in the area, is it going to ping if you're in a house or outside?
I don't know.
Wouldn't it just look like a ping?
Well, he's testifying for the prosecution, so
right. So that you also have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, considering the first trial and all this other shit.
Yeah.
So Ian also covered and I neglected to tell you this in the little story of exactly what happened, but Jen had Google searched hose long to die in cold. She meant how long to die in the cold.
Jen did, not Karen.
Not Karen. But Jen said that Karen asked her to Google that. Right? So this was a big deal as far as when this was searched. when this was put into Google and searched.
Why wouldn't Karen have just searched it on her phone? Why would she have someone else?
Yep.
I'm questioning Jen here.
Mm-hmm. You're going to question her more. She's a crazy person.
Oh, great.
Yay. Ian covered this, How Long to Die in the Cold, however she wrote it, and they were placed again on Jen's phone. Ian's testimony revealed that he believes these searches were made around 2:27 a.m. If this search was done this early, it could mean that someone knew John was laying in the snow and chose not to help or intervene.
Right. So, like,
well, it was. I'm going to tell you this part before
if Karen wasn't around Jen
at that point.
So yeah,
no.
why would? Okay, all right.
But it was later proven by a separate cell phone expert that this was merely when the browser was opened on the phone, not when the actual search was made. So the search was made after, I think it was like 6:27 a.m. on a browser that was opened at 2:27.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just a whole fucking mess right there. All right. Here's the fun one. Day 6 through 8. Jen McCabe. This fucking bitch. All right. This bitch is the one who in the initial trial said she drove Karen around to try to find John once she realized something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Jen said that upon getting to the Canton property, Karen pointed at John on the ground before anyone else saw him, as if she knew exactly where he was. So in the initial trial, so the first trial, Jen said Karen shouted, "Did I hit him?" Or "Could I have hit him?" But in this trial, her statement changed to quoting Karen as saying, "I hit him."
Okay, so now we need to throw out her entire testimony because she's not a reliable witness. But okay.
Just wait. Jen basically testified the same story as she did in the first trial, but with slight variations. So Jen stated she was at the bar with John and Karen when it closed and invited them back to the home of the Alberts. Jen and her husband Matt both testified in the first trial that they saw Karen's SUV outside of the home. However, to her knowledge, neither Karen nor John ever came in. Jen also said that Karen mentioned having a broken taillight in an early morning conversation. The defense rebutted that this is key information, and had the taillight been broken upon the police's initial search, it would have been noted in one of their reports. This allowed them to also question Jen's memory of the entire evening, as well as her level of sobriety and intention.
Yeah, because I have questions about that.
Everyone does.
If I'm like, if I'm hosting people at my house and I see a car roll up, like, let's just say I see your car roll up and I know that you're there with your husband, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys take off and no one comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm either walking outside to be like, what the fuck's going on? Or I'm calling you and being like, are you guys okay? Like, I saw you roll up, but you didn't come in. Did something happen? Like, no one thought to do... This doesn't make any goddamn sense.
So at some point, too, her phone butt dialed John's.
Oh, it just butt dialed.
Like 8 times in a row.
Oh, it just butt dialed 8 times in a row. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe anything that this woman says. Yeah. And you know what that means? You got to throw all of it out. Bye. What's that saying? If it doesn't make sense, it's more than likely not true.
Well, that also bitches be bitches.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
There's that. So initially, Jen told federal agents that she had only contacted her husband as well as one friend before they arrived to give their statement.
Okay.
But cell phone records show a much different scene. Jen had contacted several people, and this list included her brother-in-law as well as John's mother.
What?
Yeah.
Wait.
This information led to speculation that Jen was trying to coordinate the story with everyone or to offer potential witness collusion.
Yeah.
Yep. So as far as her memory from the evening in general, she seems off on a lot of things, if you haven't figured that out already. One important piece is that she said there was not a dog at the home. This is not true, as there are multiple reports of the dog, whose name is Chloe. attacking someone later in the evening
What?
at that home. Yeah. Jen's phone also butt dialed John several times. Why? We don't know. They were, quote, butt dials. But I know I already said that part.
Does her butt have fingers?
Apparently. Jen's excuse for all of her consistencies was that she was in a state of shock and she would, quote, call the detectives as more information came into her memory. All in all, Jen's testimony, to me at least, and apparently other people, seemed full of holes and looked shady as shit due to all of her ties to the police, local government, and her multiple meetings with the prosecution. Karen Reed stated that Jen appeared to be the, quote, quarterback, end quote, of the collusion.
Oh.
So I'm going to go back to day 6. The jury did get a small break from Jen's dumbass and her stupid face when they heard from ARCA, ARCCA.
That's a fun name.
Who is ARCA? ARCA is an accident reconstruction company. For those of you that have been following this trial, you will know the name Daniel Wolf because he testified for ARCA. Daniel's testimony was key for the defense in helping to prove Karen's innocence. Long story long, Daniel did a reconstruction of the crime scene showing that John's injuries were not consistent of being hit by a car. Day 9. The now retired Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, who was the responding officer to the crime scene for the Canton Police Department, was called to the stand. He made the same testimony he did in the first trial. He was consistent.
Okay.
But here's how it goes. He showed up to the scene, and because there was a bad storm heading in, he called another local officer to help with evidence. The other officer offered red Solo cups. Lieutenant Gallagher used the said cups to collect blood from the scene and then placed the party cups into a Stop and Shop bag in which he delivered the evidence to the police station. I mean, the cops probably thought their lieutenant was like rolling in with some tasty gas station snacks. And then there was just cups of blood.
I wish everyone could see my face right now because this is fucked.
He also used a leaf blower to clear snow from the scene.
Come on.
I know. One other red flag I read was that he never put in for a search, just like Michael Proctor, he never put in for a search warrant of the home, internal or the yard, even after the dog was mysteriously gone and they had ripped up brand new flooring from their basement, even breaking through cement.
Yeah, because that's not suspicious at all.
No, not at all.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-mm. He also did not have pieces of the broken taillight, a hat that John was wearing, or one of John's shoes that was missing.
What?
Mm-hmm. If he was hit on a property, those items would be right there, regardless of smell.
What happened to his other shoe?
I don't know. Where is it? Where's his hat? Where's his shoe? Where are the pieces of the taillight?
I have thoughts, but I don't want to get sued. Continue.
Listen. I mean, what are they going to go for? This guy also never asked neighbors, just like Michael Proctor, right? He never asked neighbors, including one of them that was a deputy chief, for their Ring camera or security footage. So the responding officer nor the lead investigator did anything right.
They were in a residential area. There had to have been at least a Ring camera.
You think?
But wait. Most people have some type of a surveillance.
Yeah. There's more.
Oh, great.
Katie McLaughlin, who was a paramedic with the Canton Fire Department, testified again as well. She testified that she saw a man lying in the snow close to the road and then helped to get him into the ambulance. She also claims to have heard Karen saying, "I hit him."
Other people were standing there saying that they had heard her say, "Could I have hit him?" Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what she heard.
That's
what I'm thinking, because maybe in her state she was like, "Oh my God, like how did he get there like that? Did I fucking hit him? Did
I do that when I was
She
drunk
could have been in a
out?
panic."
Yeah.
Not the best thing to say in that situation, but also we can't say how we're going to react in a certain situation until we're in that situation. I mean,
I also think that Karen probably thought she was surrounded by her law enforcement family.
Yeah.
You know, like they band together. And I think, I don't know. I don't know what I think. I also believe that Katie admitted she may have heard incorrectly.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
The biggest piece of her testimony to me was that she recognized the home. And later, Katie realized that
Because of a dog bite?
It was the home of one of her high school friends, Caitlin Albert. If you recognize the home, there's a reason. You've probably been there.
Yeah, because I'm not just going to drive by a random home and be like, oh, I know that home.
Right.
Like, no, I've never seen it, never been there. So something.
I can't.
That's weird.
Yeah. Day 10. A few other members of law enforcement testified. However, none of this was super surprising or life-changing.
Okay.
Just basic crime scene shit that we've already heard.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for the jury on day 10 was probably the voicemails that Karen left John. These voicemails were left just hours before John's body was found.
Okay.
Hours. One of them said, quote, John, I am here with your boop kids. Nobody knows where the boop you are. Beep, pervert, Reed said in one of the messages that was received at 12:59 a.m.
She called him a pervert. Wonder why.
Because she thought he was cheating on her.
Oh.
The anger in her voice leads me to believe that she really was livid with him. That he had not returned home yet. And I mean, we all know how I already feel about this case.
Yeah.
You know, she's calling him a pervert, saying, why the F aren't you home?
Yeah. It's not uncommon for people to like call after they've murdered someone and leave a voicemail just to, you know, establish an alibi and make it seem like they didn't do it.
Right.
But it's usually pretty obvious. Like I'm thinking of like Jodi Arias when after she killed Travis Alexander and then she was driving home and she called him and left this big long voicemail and was like, "Hi, just wanted to," yeah, and it was just so I don't want to like misquote any of it, but you could fucking tell that
she wasn't
fake.
like, I'm here with your fucking kids.
Yeah.
Get home. Where are you?
That's
fucking
pretty
perv.
Yeah, that's pretty serious. And like I feel like if you want to make it seem like you didn't kill someone, you wouldn't be like screaming at them and calling them a pervert and shit. You would be like nicey.
That's kind of my point too.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't fighting at all. It was fine. Everything was glitter and unicorn farts.
Exactly. Yep.
We're on day 11 of 800, so hope you guys are doing okay. Remember earlier when I mentioned a guy named Ian?
Yes.
He's a cell phone forensic expert.
Yep.
Well, today, another digital forensic professor took the stand.
Okay.
Her name is Jessica Hyde, and her main focus was covering the Haas Long to Die in the Cold search. Jessica was the one who was able to show that the search was not actually made at 2:27 a.m.
Okay.
The browser was merely opened at this time.
Okay.
The actual search was made after 6 a.m., according to Jessica. Now, I'm sure Jessica's credible. However, if the jury was allowed to do their research on character, they would have discovered that Jessica has had her analysis deemed unreliable by the court in the past.
Oh.
Yeah. This data, however, was agreed upon as her and Ian were using the same software. It just so happened that Ian didn't update his prior to using it.
Oh my God.
I can't. After he did that, their timestamps matched. Day 12, 13, and 14. More officers testified. Basically, it's blah, 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 blah. Just kidding.
Blah, 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 blah.
They were asked questions about Michael Proctor and any potential misinformation given in the first trial. One officer by the name of Yuri Buchanek read text between Karen and an ATF officer that were very flirty in nature.
Okay.
This other officer's name is Brian Higgins. After flirting and complaining about John, Karen abruptly stopped talking to Brian, which to them made him a potential suspect. He was interviewed at the time and was quickly deemed innocent.
Okay.
Yuri was cross-examined and asked about the discrepancy of when exactly Karen's car was seized. Red flag here is that he agreed with the discrepancy and then admitted to just leaving it the way it was. So he noticed that there was a discrepancy. I don't think I said that very well, but he noticed that there was a discrepancy on the reports of when Karen's car was seized.
Okay.
And he just left it. He didn't correct it.
That's interesting.
Another red flag was the fact that a video of Karen's car after it was impounded was inverted.
What?
It was inverted and then shown to the court that way. So it was reversed.
Why?
Because it fit the narrative.
Oh.
He stated that the video was fair and accurate, even though it was proven that it had been tampered with. Day 15. John's niece, who was essentially his daughter, this is the one that he adopted, recalled the morning of his death when Karen was frantic that John did not come home the night before. She also stated that they had been fighting a lot lately, they being Karen and John. Karen asked the niece to call John as well as Jen. And I know I kind of said this all before, but this is the day it was actually brought up in court. Karen then asked the niece, could I have done something? Did he get hit by a plow? This was before them seeing him on the side of the road.
It's an odd thing to say.
I know.
Could I
she's
have
probably
done
still drunk too. Could I have done something? Did he get hit by a plow?
That almost leads me to believe that she knew that he never made it in the house.
It's possible.
Devil's advocate.
Maybe they all knew. Maybe it's all this just one big conspiracy. I don't know.
Dude, I don't even know. This one is so befuddling. But you know
Good
what
word.
would have really helped? If they would have gotten fucking surveillance footage.
You know, the normal.
Yeah, no.
A state crime lab expert also testified that there was a presence of glass on Karen's bumper, swabbed the area for DNA, but found no blood under the car. And the glass was from that of a cocktail glass. They don't know if it was from the Alberts' home because it was never searched. And they don't, I mean, it could have been a cocktail glass. You know, when you're really drunk and you just walk out of a bar with a drink.
Yeah.
And you set it down.
Yeah.
Somebody could have done that and just set it on her bumper. Day 16. The attorneys fought over a witness. The end. Day 17. Attorneys were still fighting about witnesses, and crime lab analyst explained DNA and reviewed the taillight evidence again. Day 18. Okay, remember how I said the attorneys were fighting?
Attorneys were fighting in court. No way.
No, the defense won this small battle, and they were able to cross-examine Shannon Burgess. Shannon is a digital forensic examiner who testified earlier in the case. He gave information at some point on more digital evidence because there were like 8 of them. The defense actually found discrepancies in his resume in which he claimed to have a degree that he in fact does not have.
Yeah, that's a huge problem.
Yeah. So that brought his credibility
to zero.
Yeah. Well, into question, but yeah, to zero for the jury. And it honestly made the prosecution look like they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Correct. Because you're
Yeah.
You're supposed to vet these experts. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So day 19, Shannon defended his research on timestamps, which nobody cared about at that point. And a member of the Massachusetts crime lab was called in to review glass pieces found at the scene.
Okay.
Another person reviewing glass. Day 20. The judge yelled at the jurors individually because they were possibly talking to each other. No one actually knows if this is the case, as it was done in private. However, that's what was suspected. Here's where a brain surgeon testifies.
Oh, wow.
And he testified that John's injuries were consistent with a backwards fall, leading to brain swelling.
Okay.
He claimed that coupled with hypothermia could have led to John's death.
Okay.
So just sit on that for a second.
Yeah.
In my mind, the dog bit him. He fell backwards. He hit his head on something hard, passed out. They were like, oh, just put him outside. They put him outside, realized he wasn't breathing. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like, why though? Like, if he would have fallen, why wouldn't they have just called paramedics and been like, hey, this guy was drunk and fell in my house? Like, there's no foul play.
Because they really loved the dog and didn't want her to get euthanized.
But they still got rid of it.
But she wasn't euthanized.
Ugh, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know.
This whole thing makes zero sense.
It's stupid. Day 21, 22, and 23. Judson Welcher reconstructed the crime scene using a painted bumper to show where John would have been hit by essentially running into it and seeing where the paint transferred.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's fun.
He also stated that the cut over John's eye matched the truck's hatch. The defense questioned his tactics and asked why he had changed his presentation so late in the game. They also questioned his relationship with the prosecution. The prosecution showed the jury a clip from a docuseries about Karen again, and then took rest. Day 24, finally, Karen's team starts calling witnesses. The first witness was Matthew DeSagra, who is an engineer that specializes in accident reconstruction. Matthew basically clarified and disputed methods used by Shannon just days before. 3 witnesses were called, but the most memorable thing on days 25 and 26 was Michael Proctor's rude-ass text messages being read and the judge denying a mistrial. Day 27, Brian Loughran, who is a local snowplow driver, and he's also known by the name of Lucky, drove by the Canton property several times that evening while clearing snow. And he stated he had a clear visual of the road and surrounding areas during each pass.
Dude.
He was a hit for the defense. No pun intended.
No, but seriously, that's pretty strong testimony right there.
Well, yeah, because he stated he did not see John's body at all that evening. After, like, he went down that road several times.
Oh, man.
Do you see? There's like so much. There's so much.
How can you overlook that evidence?
You can't, because it tore apart the prosecution's timeline.
That ain't good.
It also puts into question if John's body was even there. That's my thing.
Yeah, because maybe he was in the house.
Or was it moved from someone else? And then Karen was blamed.
Yeah.
Her car was impounded by the cops. They broke the taillight. They planted it at the scene. There's a whole lot of shit here, girl. I can't.
That's crazy.
Day 28 and 29, the defense showed the jury crash dummy test showing that Karen's car could not have hit John, and the judge again denied a mistrial. Day 30, we're getting close. Karen announced that she will not be testifying.
Which is good.
Yeah. And the former medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island, Elizabeth LaPosada, offered her take on John's injuries. Yeah, so this is a former medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island.
Okay.
So not Massachusetts.
Okay.
But again, she offered her take on John's injuries, and after reviewing his injuries, Elizabeth determined that the lacerations on his arm were caused by an animal. She did not say any type of animal specifically because the judge wouldn't allow it, just the word animal. Also, DNA was taken from the wounds on John's arm at some point, and although it did not test positive for dog DNA, it did test positive for pig DNA.
What?
Yeah. It's strange.
If that's not ironic, considering all the cops that are involved.
Oh, that's hysterical. I didn't think about that. Which is strange. However, many speculate that this could have been transferred from a dog that was eating a treat or one of those pig ears.
Oh,
think
my
about that.
God.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
To remind everyone, there was a dog named Chloe present
that they lied about and said wasn't present,
who lived at the Albert home and was said to be present during the night of the party.
But then they denied that the dog was there, but then they found that the dog was there.
She was rehomed in March of 2022 because she injured another dog and their owner.
And she had a prior history of injuring people, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And it was said that she even bit someone that evening of the party.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Day 31. The last witness for the defense testified. It was Andrew Rentschler, who is a biomechanical engineer. He told the jury that Karen's SUV did not hit John, and this could be determined by the broken taillight alone. If the car hit John at enough speed to break the taillight, the injuries on John and John's arm would have been much, much worse.
Exactly. And also the damage to the car would have been much worse, I would think.
I mean, you would think. Yeah.
I mean, I've worked in PI before, and I've seen photos of a car that has hit a pedestrian at a low speed, and you're going to see some damage.
Yeah.
Not just a taillight.
Well, I want to say there was a dent too.
There was a dent?
I want to say. Not like a big one, though.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the taillight was the main focus there. Like, I mean, I could see, like, if you accidentally, like, hit somebody and they fall over and hit their head.
Yeah.
Like the medical examiner. But, like, still, that impact is not going to break a taillight.
Right. If you're trying to kill somebody, you're not just going to ping them with your car.
It
You're
takes
gonna
a lot to break a taillight. Day 32. What day are we on? Yep, day 32. Closing arguments. The end. Day 33 and 34, the jury deliberated. Day 35, the jury had some questions for the judge. They wanted to know the time frames for specific charges that they were deliberating for. They also wanted to know if they found Karen guilty on a subcharge, would it need to be a guilty verdict on all charges?
Oh.
The judge was able to provide answers to their questions and provide new verdicts based on the jury's concerns.
I wonder what subcharge they were referring to.
You'll find out.
Oh, yeah.
Day 35, the jury announced their verdict. So Karen was found guilty on the subcharge of a DUI.
Oh.
And given a short probation sentence.
Okay.
However,
because she admitted to driving drunk when she okay. All right.
As far as the bigger charge, Karen was found not guilty of second-degree murder.
There's too much reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
There's just too much reasonable doubt.
Way too much.
Guilty
or not, like that was a shit show from the start.
There was so much tampering and inadequate police work. There's too much reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was kind of neat, like, following the case with all of her supporters. Like, they grew and grew and grew outside of the court, and they all wore pink to support her. And when the verdict was read aloud, you could hear the cheers from them outside into the courtroom. And they started singing too. They sang the Star Spangled Banner.
What?
Yeah. Bless.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's too much reasonable doubt. Mm-hmm. I can't even make an opinion on this.
I mean, I don't think she did it, honestly. Like, there are little bits and pieces where I'm like, oh, maybe she did it. Or maybe she knew what happened and they just were all framing her. And there's just, I don't know. I feel bad for John's family because they don't have any closure. They don't have any justice for their son.
What if it was just, here's the thing. I want to say, what if it was just an accident and him being drunk, it's snowy out, he slipped, hit his head, fell, but where's his hat? Okay. Where's his shoe? Mm-hmm. And also, why didn't the snowplow driver see his body when he drove by repeatedly plowing the street? Mm-hmm. Those are things I can't ignore.
I just saw a scene play out in my head when you were saying that. Karen dropped him off. He started walking up towards the house. She yelled at him because they were fighting, right?
Yeah.
He still had the cocktail glass in his hand.
Maybe he threw it at her car.
From the bar.
Taillight.
He threw it at her car, broke the taillight. That's why there was the glass in there.
But then what happened to the taillight, though? They didn't find any taillight pieces there?
Maybe they all fell into it. I don't know. Because maybe it, like, imploded instead of exploded.
I don't know.
If you throw, look, if
I think the tail light. I think the tail light may have already been broken from her fucking hitting something.
That too.
I don't shit happens, but I want to say that this may have just been a really freak fucking accident. Mm-hmm. But then the snowplow driver.
Mm-hmm. He throws me off, and everybody seems to like him kind of in the town. Like, he's credible.
Yeah, I mean,
him.
if they were driving around looking for him and they were able to see him on the side of the road, a snowplow driver who drove by repeatedly certainly would have seen that.
And they're in an elevated vehicle.
Correct.
You know, like, and he testified that his visibility was clear. Although there was snow coming down, it was a heavy storm. A blizzard was coming in.
Right.
It wasn't quite there yet. It was snowing. And they're used to that in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, I went to Boston once and there were like, whew, like snow plows left snow that were taller than me, which isn't hard to do, but like, it's a lot of snow.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't even know. I don't know what kind of, this is one of those cases where I couldn't even form an opinion. I can't form an opinion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I did, but.
Do you think that it occurred inside the house and then he was put outside?
I mean, I did until you talked about him possibly slipping and stuff. I didn't even think about that. But I honestly think that they were all in the basement. I think the dog probably attacked him, or him and another guy were going to fight because they were drunk and they're men and they're assholes. You know what I mean? And the dog was protecting the other person, jumped on him, knocked him over. He hit his head, and they were like, oh, fuck. And then
because he did have brain swelling. Excuse me. He did have brain swelling consistent with a fall.
Right. So I think that they were all so ridiculously hammered.
Yeah, maybe somebody shoved him. They were about to fight. Somebody shoved him, and then the dog jumped in.
Mm-hmm. I think they were all trying to protect each other. And that's why.
And if they know that if some shit like that went down in their house, that would affect their career.
Their career, their friends' careers, everyone who was there.
And also, drunk people make really bad decisions.
Right.
So, I mean, who's to say that they weren't like, just fucking put him outside. I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah.
Just throw him
He'll
outside.
wake up.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just too much reasonable doubt to pin Karen Reed with,
with hitting him.
Right.
And maybe she did. Maybe she backed into him, was so drunk she didn't realize it.
And it was a freak accident.
Maybe she backed into him and he was fine. She started driving off. He threw the glass and then slipped and fell. You know, like, I don't know. She could have been so
drunk that she didn't even know she hit him.
Which
would explain why she said, could I have hit him?
Yeah. There are so many different possibilities. It's stupid.
Again, you know what would have really helped is the fucking surveillance footage that multiple houses had.
Right. But I don't think she did it, or they would have gotten that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they did that for a reason.
Something's fishy.
I know.
Something's fishy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Well, it's not me. I showered. Just kidding. I didn't.
But yeah, I mean, you can't pin a murder on somebody with that. You just can't.
Mm-mm.
You can't.
Nope.
So I feel like the jury they came to the right conclusion.
I agree.
Based on what they were given.
Yeah. And I know Karen has expressed extreme gratitude towards everyone who supported her.
Yeah.
And she was quoted saying, "No one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have."
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah,
I want to believe that. John's family,
do they think she did it?
They think, okay. They think it was her. They think she did it, and they're gonna die on that hill, as you say.
Yeah.
But she is currently preparing for a civil suit.
Oh.
Yep. So maybe we'll have a follow-up on this in a year or so.
What a mess.
Hot mess.
Well, I mean, look at the O.J. Simpson case. Like, he was acquitted, but he was found guilty in the civil suit filed by Ron Goldman's parents. He was found guilty of that.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever paid, the restitution or anything, but
no way.
But it just shows how, there can be different outcomes with this, essentially the same evidence, It's just
so weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
And stupid.
Welp.
There you go, guys. Okay. Leave us some comments.
Yeah, let us
comment,
know
like,
what
and
you guys
subscribe.
think.
Just kidding.
I'm curious to see what other people, especially what our listeners, think of this.
Yeah, give us your best theory on exactly what happened. Break that shit down for us.
Yeah, because this for real has me stumped. This is, like I said, this is one case where I can officially say I got nothing. I couldn't even begin to imagine what happened, because it could go so many ways. I don't know.
Jägermeister is what happened.
Yeah.
Jägermeister and tequila.
Yeah, that's a dangerous mix, man.
Yep. Well,
Alcohol is not.
alcohol is a powerful drug.
It is. It really is. Be careful out there, guys.
Yeah.
Don't
smoke
drink.
weed.
Don't drink and drive, though. Seriously, that shit pisses me the fuck off. Do not fucking drink and drive.
Do you know I was almost killed by a drunk driver when I was 7?
Yeah, that's fucking terrifying.
It's stupid.
I know a couple people who have been killed by drunk drivers. Don't drink and drive.
Please.
Ubers and Lyfts exist for a fucking reason.
Yeah, don't be an asshole.
Yeah, me and my friends just went to Wildwood to have fun on the boardwalk. We did an Uber. We don't drink and drive.
And you were fine. You made it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom.
It's not worth it.
TED Talk.
Yeah, anywho.
We love you. Thank you for listening. Hope
Yes.
this one wasn't too all over the place for you guys. If it was, sorry, I tried.
Yeah, but the case itself was all over the place, so
Yeah, it's
it's
fair.
fine.
I tried. I'll do my best.
You did good.
I'll
It
do
was
better
good.
next time.
You did good, sweetie.
Stay tuned for P. Diddy. Just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually, I'm doing that.
They're going to have aren't they going to, did the defense rest already on that, I
They
think?
did. Yeah.
Oh, boy. What a shit show.
I have been, every time, like,
Well,
I
that's
cook
all
dinner.
you.
Listen, every time I cook dinner, I'm listening to that case,
Yeah,
right?
Diddy's all you. I'm not even touching that one.
Well, I've been listening to Law and Crime, and Ashley Banfield has been doing an amazing job covering it.
Yeah.
The accents she throws out sometimes crack me up. I'm like, did she just say that? God bless her. She did. But yeah, every time I'm cooking dinner, I'm listening to it. And Jack came in the other day. He goes, Jesus Christ. He's
Again?
like, every time you're in here, all I hear is Diddy.
Yeah.
Diddy. I was like, Jack, it's just so crazy.
Did Diddy do it? Diddy did do it. Well, what didn't Diddy do? For all my South Park peeps out there, if you know, you know. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah,
We'll
have a
see you
great
next
day.
Tuesday.
Don't be one.
Bye.
Bye.